Hi. Hi, good morning, good morning.
Good morning, Ronaldo. How are you doing?
I am doing very, very, very well. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
I am looking forward. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the meeting. I apologize for coming on late. I was having some problems with my Zoom.
Okay. Oh, no problem. And glad you got those problems resolved, and looking forward to talking to you.
Yes, welcome to the show. I am so happy that you are on. For those of us, I'm going to be joining. I'm going to officially do the announcement, but I just was reading a newspaper regarding the Haiti situation, but we'll get into that a little bit. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, man. But how is your morning so far?
It's been okay. Been busy, but going okay.
All right. And we will begin as we are ready. Welcome to another episode of the Neoliberal Round podcast. I am Ronaldo McKenzie. And of course, today we have with us the Executive Director, Brian Concannon of the Institute for Democracy and Justice in Haiti. Did I get that right?
Actually, it's justice and democracy. So we think you need justice before democracy, although you can certainly argue the other way. Yes,
I have been making some mistakes, and I listened to a podcast I did, and I said something. I was saying the international, but then I realized no, it's the Institute for Justice and Democracy in Haiti. And Mr. Brian, you are the founder and the executive director for the Institute for Justice, for Democracy and Justice in Haiti. Welcome to the interview. Welcome to the Neoliberal Round podcast.
Well, thank you, Ronaldo. I'm really looking forward to talking about Haiti with you, and grateful that you invited me to join you.
Yes, and I'm so happy that we had this connection, because I teach a class, Caribbean Thought, that looks at Caribbean thinking, but not just within the Caribbean, but just we look at how the world is connected, because there are people within the local, and of course you have people in the diaspora, and the diaspora is huge. And I've been coming to the U.S. I started coming to the U.S. in 2006. And I remember I was in Florida, and actually I went to Jamaica Theological Seminary. The former president of the Jamaica Theological Seminary was from Haiti. When I was going to JTS, Jamaica Theological Seminary, Dr. Jovenel Moïse was the president of Haiti at the time. And Haiti has had quite an interesting experience. And so it's quite interesting that we have an institute like yours working with Haiti. Now, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got and I know you started the IGHD, the Institute for Democracy and Justice in Haiti. Am I right? Am I getting it right?
IJDH. It's hard to say in English. We keep thinking we want to change the name, but it runs off your tongue in French or Haitian Creole.
Yes.
It's IJDH in Creole, and it works really well. English is tough.
IJDH, yes.
Exactly.
So yep. How did you get started? How did this start?
Before I get to that, Ronaldo, I want to say something about how grateful I am for you to try to integrate Haiti into your discussion of broader Caribbean thought, because Haiti has been, the powers of the world have tried to keep that from happening ever since Haiti's independence. I mean, they wanted to contain the contagion of freedom. 1804, Haiti becomes a free state, beating of all people Napoleon at the height of his powers. The last thing that England, Spain, Portugal, France wanted was that example being spread. And the world has spent the last 200 plus years trying to prevent Haiti's example from going to other places. Obviously the example got far enough that, that in the decades that followed, you did have abolition in Haiti, and then in the century that followed, some independence. But even now, there's very few direct flights from Haiti to anywhere else in the Caribbean. Most of the time you want to go somewhere in the Caribbean, you have to go through Miami, which means a U.S. visa, which means who's controlling it. And whenever you get too often, even though Haiti is a member of CARICOM, there are barriers of language, barriers of culture, but also the United States actually works hard on other CARICOM countries to prevent them from from really acting in solidarity with Haiti. So I really appreciate that, that this podcast and you bringing this in is really an act of resistance against 200 years of trying to keep Haiti out of the rest of the Caribbean.
That is so true. It's been, I remember doing history. It was one of my favorite subjects in high school. Mm-hmm. And we learned about Haiti being one of the first Caribbean countries, the first country in the Caribbean that got their independence. So one of the first, not only Caribbean, one of the first Black countries that was colonized that got independence. And then we talked about the Haitian Revolution and the French Revolution and how and that was a problem. But then, fast forward several years later, they've had you have the French influence and you have the US influence, the Spanish, and then of course there is the tug of war between Santo Domingo and Haiti and so on and so forth. But Haiti has had quite a lot of, has had a rich history. And, Rastafarians in Jamaica looked to Rastafari in Ethiopia because they wanted a religion that speaks to the Black consciousness and freedom. And, but Haiti was never, growing up as a boy, you never hear people talking about Haiti. And to be honest, there was this tension between Jamaica and Haiti or the Caribbean and the other, and in Jamaica they speak English, although sometimes they confuse Jamaica with Haiti. They speak Creole in Haiti, but other than that they speak French. But we've always thought that Haiti was just there's something happening with Haiti. But then we saw the conflict and the tension in the U.S. penetration. I mentioned this to my class, U.S. interference in the Caribbean. And I have to start with this, and I know you sent an email and I read it earlier today and I said, wow, I just read a story where the Jamaican government is thinking about sending a troop to Haiti. They may have already done it, I'm not sure, but right now Jamaicans are opposed to it. But the thing is, the US is opposed to it. They don't really want to send anybody to Haiti.
Especially the US wants to send people to Haiti. The U.S. does not want to send white U.S. soldiers to Haiti. And that's what the Jamaica announcement is all about. So the U.S., they know that Haitians will dislike the mission. They know that Haitians, have been resisting foreign interference since they beat Napoleon. And the U.S. wants foreign troops in Haiti, but does not want to pay the political cost of having white U.S. soldiers having to shoot into crowds of Black Haitians. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to outsource it, and they've the U.S. has asked deputized Canada to go around the Caribbean and to ask people to join the troops. And they started this back in October, and initially it did not work. No one jumped on. I think Ralph Gonzalez of St. Vincent was the most articulate, saying, hey, look, we'll be seen as propping up a government that is illegitimate and doing international community's bidding. We can't do that. We should only send troops if there's a political solution. And everybody else seemed to agree to that, although everybody was quiet about it. I'm not sure what the recent announcement by Jamaica is. Maybe Jamaica thinks that there's no chance that this mission is going to happen, so that at least they can curry favor. But it is clearly not something that Haitians want, and it's something that that Haitians, to be honest, many Haitians who are feel they have no other option. They're cowering every day under from gang violence. They think, okay, the only possible solution that the international community will let happen is foreign intervention. But every political party not connected with the government, civil society organizations, human rights groups, journalists, every single public statement has been on the intervention in Haiti has been against that intervention. My colleague Mario Joseph actually wrote a very eloquent letter to CARICOM explaining
I would love to get
why.
a copy of that. If you could send that to me, that would be great, because I would love to see a copy of that.
As soon as we're done, you'll have a copy.
Yes, but you said, so he wrote a letter to CARICOM.
Yes. back in October when it was suggested, explaining why it was a bad idea, and starting with, as you mentioned, back to 1804, this was the beginning of CARICOM liberation, and he felt that by supporting an intervention that is being developed by former slave-owning countries to come into Haiti to prop up an unpopular government is a betrayal of Haiti's revolution and all that it means for the Afro-descendant world. He also felt, and this is actually really important, he felt it was a betrayal of the example that CARICOM set in 2004. So 2 centuries ahead of 1804, you get to 2004, the U.S. kidnapped Haiti's elected president, Jean-Bertrand Aristide, and sent him in exile, first to the Central African Republic, which was very dangerous for him, and then Jamaica hosted President Aristide for a few weeks, but the U.S. was putting so much pressure that they could only do that temporarily, and then President Aristide eventually got safety in South Africa. But along that, CARICOM really stood up for democracy, because CARICOM has, within its charter, has democracy provisions. It says, CARICOM is an organization of democracies. If there is an interruption in the democratic order, that has consequences for membership. And CARICOM never recognized the de facto government that took over. By contrast, the Organization of American States, of which CARICOM is half the membership, almost half the membership, has identical democracy provisions, and they refuse to even have a debate about implementing them. And again, it's because the OAS is dominated by the United States. CARICOM, obviously the U.S. can apply a lot of pressure on small countries in CARICOM with tourism bans and travel bans and things like that. Despite threats of that, CARICOM stood up and they said, we're under pressure, but we care about democracy, and they resisted it. And that's one of the things that Mario Joseph said, hey, look, CARICOM showed the world what principled reaction to a democratic threat meant. And by sending troops now, it would betray that example.
And thank you for bringing this to my attention. This is major news. I don't know how involved Jamaicans and the Caribbean people are in what is going on and what the governments are doing. And I've talked about this. This is as Caribbean people. I mean, I'm Caribbean diaspora now. I'm a U.S. citizen, but I'm still connected to the Caribbean and Jamaica. And I study our history. I study what has dogged us, what has kept Caribbean people down. And the great thing is that I've written a book. Coming to this country, I've had great opportunity to study the Caribbean some more as an academic. And I'm still discovering more things. And of course, the unity of the Caribbean. But the fact that as well, sometimes the Caribbean people don't know what the governments are doing, the deals that they're making. But outside of that, you're an international organization that's here helping to bring light, shedding light about what's going on in the world, and also to promote human rights and human justice. Tell me a little bit about the work that your organization do in Haiti and when you started and how it's been.
Sure. So I first actually went to Haiti with the United Nations back in 1995. And this was, without going, and Haitians will always give a very long historical answer to these kinds of questions. I'm happy to do follow-ups. I'll be a little bit more brief than that. I'll just only go back to 1991. So 1991, there was a coup d'etat. Haiti's first democratically elected president, Jean-Bertrand Aristide, was overthrown. There was 3.5 years of a pretty brutal, repressive dictatorship. Then in 1994, democracy was returned with an intervention force, and it's important. That's an acceptable intervention force. It was requested by Haiti's democratically elected government, and it had broad support in the international community. CARICOM troops were CARICOM country troops were part of that, and it was there to restore democracy rather than to prop up a dictatorship. So I followed in that. There was a UN human rights mission. I went as a UN volunteer to join that mission to try to do what I could to help build up Haiti's justice system and the rule of law in Haiti. I left the UN after about 9 months and joined a a group of lawyers called in French, the Bureau des Avocats Internationaux, or BAI, in English, International Lawyers Office. And what we were trying to do, we were actually a group that was set up by Haiti's government, and our purpose was we were independent of like the Ministry of Justice and the courts and things like that. We were an independent group that was set up. The government wanted us to apply pressure on its own system because it knew that you'd had an elected president, you had a fairly elected legislature, but the judicial branch, which isn't elected, would be much slower in democratizing. And the government said, okay, we're going to create this group of people that are going to put pressure on the system to help speed up its democratization. And the way we worked, we combined prominent cases. We did major human rights cases that had broad public interest, and we did legal work. We filed complaints, went to court, things like that. But we combined it. But that wasn't enough because the system was not democratic. It had developed over centuries. Ronaldo?
I am not. Hi, how are you?
Hi.
I am not
I'm
sure
doing
what
well.
happened. Come on. I don't know what happened. The
Yeah,
computer
I don't either. Just kind of went out. I mean, it might have been my end, but
my mic was working. The thing was plugged in. Everything was working fine. And I'm not sure, but this is what happens when you're working with algorithms. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm so sorry. No, but I have it on record. It's been recorded on audio as well. So I may lose the video recording. I'm not sure. Hopefully I don't. But I have it also been, it's audio and video, and we're also writing articles. So this is great. So sorry about that. So now you were talking about how you got started, how your organization got started in Haiti. And sorry about
So at the time, the justice system had for centuries evolved to serve whoever in Haiti had the guns and the money. And what the government wanted to do was to help transition it to serving the people and the law. And so they started the BAI as a way of applying pressure on the system. And the way we did it was we filed lawsuits and went to court, but that would not be enough because the system was not set up to serve the people. And the lawsuits we were filing were for large massacres. So we're going after generals, paramilitary leaders, very powerful people. And so we combined the legal work with organizing work. We helped the victims demonstrate, do demonstrations, write letters, whatever they could do to put pressure on the system to get it to function democratically. And that actually worked well. Our most prominent case was called the Rabateau trial. We convicted the entire military high command, several top paramilitary officials. The trial was lauded by human rights groups, by the UN, by everyone as fair, not just to the victims who we represented, but also to the defendants. All their rights were scrupulously respected, and you ended up having a fair judgment. That's been considered a model for justice in complicated cases in transitional societies. But as we were having that success, there was also success in other areas. So this was about a 10-year experimentation in democracy that Haiti had, and that we had the success in the justice system. There was success in education. They built more secondary schools in those 10 years than it built in Haiti's history. There was successes in hospitals. The public hospitals were built up. Haiti developed this partnership with Cuba, where they were training. Cuba agreed to train hundreds of Haitian doctors, and Cuba sent hundreds of its own medical personnel to go to remote areas in Haiti. The economy got better, employment, literacy, across the board. You had these improvements. The problem was that Haiti's government insisted on rejecting the neoliberal model of development that was the dogma at the time. And so you're getting a lot of pressure from the international community to reduce the government's role in the economy. This was something that Haitians didn't understand. They had a country where half the school-age kids weren't in school. Why should you be cutting education spending? And the international community said, no, Haiti's system should be even more privatized, even though it was the second most privatized country education system in the world, and it was clearly not working for half of the kids.
Yes.
Haiti's government wanted to increase the spending on health care, and at the time that was just not acceptable to the people who ran the world, and so they slapped a development assistance embargo on Haiti, led by the United States, but Canada, the EU, even organizations like the Inter-American Development Bank agreed to participate in this. They canceled a clean water, two $400 million clean water systems. How you can justify on any grounds stopping clean water in a place where 3,000 kids a year were dying of diarrheal diseases is beyond me. But what the development assistance embargo did was, and it worked. I mean, it was designed to hurt Haiti's poor and to make them less supportive of the government and decrease the government's ability to provide basic government services. That worked spectacularly. In 2004, a group of rebels that were training somewhat openly and had been denounced by Haiti for years. They were training across the border in the Dominican Republic. They came across, they started taking over Haitian government cities and police stations and other government offices.
That was recently?
This was in 2004. This was 2004.
Wow. This is quite interesting. So there seems this tension between the two countries continue today.
Oh, yes. I mean, today, even last week, Haitians are being deported from the Dominican Republic. So yes, you still have that, in 2004, Dominican Republic, I mean, everybody knew this. This was, the Haitian, where they were arresting people coming across doing incursions, but then the U.S. and the Dominican Republic, they would deny that this was happening, even though people were getting killed and getting arrested, and everybody knew this was happening. 2000. Ronaldo?
I am not. Hi, how are you?
Hi.
I am not
I'm
sure
doing
what
well.
happened. Come on. I don't know what happened. The
computer. I don't either. Just kind of went out. I mean, it might have been my end, but
my mic was working. The thing was plugged in. Everything was working fine, and I'm not sure. But this is what happened when you're working with algorithms. I'm not sure what's going. I'm so sorry. No. But I have it on record. It's been recorded on audio as well, so I may lose the video recording. I'm not sure. Hopefully, I don't. But I have it also been. It's audio and video, and we're also writing articles. So this is great. So sorry about that. So now you were talking about how you got started. How your organization got started in Haiti. And sorry about you can pick up your.
So at the time, the justice system had for centuries evolved to serve whoever in Haiti had the guns and the money. And what the government wanted to do was to help transition it to serving the people and the law. And so they started the BAI as a way of applying pressure on the system. And the way we did it was we filed lawsuits and went to court, but that would not be enough because the system was not set up to serve the people. And the lawsuits we were filing were for large massacres. So we're going after generals, paramilitary leaders, very powerful people. And so we combined the legal work with organizing work. We helped the victims demonstrate, do demonstrations, write letters, whatever they could do to put pressure on the system to get it to function democratically. And that actually worked well. Our most prominent case was called the Lavaud trial. We convicted the entire military high command, several top paramilitary officials. The trial was lauded by human rights groups, by the UN, by everyone as fair, not just to the victims who we represented, but also to the defendants. All their rights were scrupulously respected, and you ended up having a fair judgment. That's been considered a model for justice in complicated cases in transitional societies. But as we were having that success, there was also success in other areas. So this was about a 10-year experimentation in democracy that Haiti had, and that we had the success in the justice system. There was success in education. They built more secondary schools in those 10 years than it built in Haiti's history. There was successes in hospitals. The public hospitals were built up. Haiti developed this partnership with Cuba, where they were training. Cuba agreed to train hundreds of Haitian doctors, and Cuba sent hundreds of its own medical personnel to go to remote areas in Haiti. The economy got better, employment, literacy, across the board, you had these improvements. The problem was that Haiti's government insisted on rejecting the neoliberal model of development that was the dogma at the time. And so you're getting a lot of pressure from the international community to reduce the government's role in the economy. This was something that Haitians didn't understand. They had a country where half the school-age kids weren't in school. Why should you be cutting education spending? And the international community said, no, Haiti's system should be even more privatized, even though it was the second most privatized country in education system in the world, and it was clearly not working for half of the kids. Haiti's government wanted to increase the spending on healthcare, and at the time that was just not acceptable to the people who ran the world, and so they slapped a development assistance embargo on Haiti, led by the United States, but Canada, the EU, even organizations like the Inter-American Development Bank agreed to participate in this. They canceled a clean water, two $400 million clean water systems. How you can justify on any grounds stopping clean water in a place where 3,000 kids a year were dying of diarrheal diseases is beyond me. But what the development assistance embargo did was, and it worked. I mean, it was designed to hurt Haiti's poor and to make them less supportive of the government and decrease the government's ability to provide basic government services. That worked spectacularly. In 2004, a group of rebels that were training somewhat openly and had been denounced by Haiti for years. They were training across the border in the Dominican Republic. They came across, they started taking over Haitian cities and police stations and other government offices.
That was recently?
This was in 2004. This was 2004.
Wow. This is quite interesting. So there seems this tension between the two countries continue today.
Oh, yes. I mean, today, even last week, Haitians are being deported from the Dominican Republic. So, yes, you still have that, in 2004, Dominican Republic, I mean, everybody knew this. This was, the Haitian, where they were arresting people coming across doing incursions, but then the U.S. and the Dominican Republic, they would deny that this was happening, even though people were getting killed and getting arrested, and everybody knew this was happening. 15 months ago, no one has been formally charged in his assassination. Who's running the country is a prime minister. The prime minister was named by the president the day before he was assassinated, but was never installed. The way that the prime minister was installed was literally by a press release by the core group. The core group is a group of countries, including the United States, Canada, Spain, Germany, France, and the European Union, also Brazil, I think, and that are supposed to be this kind of group of interest around Haiti. But in fact, they're a group of governance around Haiti. They literally chose Prime Minister Henry as prime minister. There was another prime minister who'd already been in office. He'd been in office for several months. And the core group initially said, Claude Joseph, the existing prime minister, will stay in office. Then a week later, they changed course and said, no, now it's going to be Dr. Ariel Henry. And that is what did the changeover. There was no Haitian mechanism, no Haitian constitution, no Haitian political parties, no decisions made in Haiti. It was all decisions made abroad that said, okay, this is who's going to run Haiti. And since then, it's been about 15 months. The government, it's 18 months. The government keeps acting. There's the last elected officials were 10 senators who became their mandates ended on January 9th of this year, but they hadn't been doing anything for 3 years, because 3 years before that, the rest of the legislature, the rest of parliament, they lost their term. So you've basically had, for 3 years, you've had 10 members of parliament. They can't vote, but since then, for 3 years now, you've had no legislature. 2.5 years ago, all the elected local officials, and there's thousands of them, their terms ended. The government said, okay, well, we're just going to name people. a lot of them were their friends as that. No accountability. There's no, there's been no election at all now in Haiti in 7 years. And there are no elections planned. The Supreme Court, speaking of accountability, the Supreme Court does not have enough members to sit to hear cases. So there's very limited judicial accountability. This has really been a dismantling of Haiti's democracy over the last 11 years with international community support.
So is it as if that the kind of I was just read up Haiti, the first black nation to be a republic, the first to be independent, so on and so forth. Haiti was a country that was just had a lot of pride and joy. There was a lot of expectations and hope for Haiti, but it's just been, as soon as they experience a little bit of advantage or freedom or independence, it's as if they go right back into it. But now it's as if now they are colonized by the international community between the U.S. and the other countries, Western nations. It's as if they are colonized again. And I think one of the reasons why I believe I had an Haitian person interviewing recently, somebody who is from Haiti. I interviewed somebody from Haiti recently. And she said to me, the people just won't come together. And she alluded to the fact that this president was assassinated. And I've been hearing from on the ground, and I have people who I talk to on the ground, locals in Haiti, and they're telling me that many people were opposed to this Haitian, to the former president of Haiti, and that they believe that he was a mouthpiece of the U.S. And, this seems to be part of the, how can the U.S. influence a country where the people in this country, they're suspicious of the U.S., they're suspicious of the international machinery. How is it that the U.S. is going to provide the answer? Isn't it something that we can do to move beyond this, doing the same thing and getting the same result? Because these people are they want independence. They want to do it themselves. They want independence. They want that pride. I think that's the most important thing. And they want independence, but it's as if they're not given a chance to experience and to experiment with their independence because of outside interference. I don't know how do you see it from where you sit?
Yeah, the way I see it is, I would push back a little bit on your comment that Haiti's being colonized again. I think Haiti has never not been colonized. And Haitians would explain this much better than they can draw a direct line. And, I'll hit some of the highlights without cutting too much detail. We bring on a Haitian in for the 10-hour version of this. But,
But that's how they feel. What I just said. That's how they feel. I feel like though they're being colored. Yeah.
But 1804, Haiti becomes independent. The U.S. would not recognize Haiti's independence until 1864. Until in our country we freed our own slaves. We refused to allow Haiti, and this was very public in government statements from most of the powerful countries, which became powerful through the slave trade. They said we cannot allow Haiti's example to succeed because of course, if you've got slaves in Jamaica, you've got slaves in South Carolina, you don't want to see them to see, hey, here's a successful country run by free slaves, because it completely undercuts all your justification that somehow blacks were somehow deserving of this treatment because they couldn't do better. And Haiti was trying to do better.
That's a powerful point you just made, man. That's powerful. That's a powerful point you just made. I mean, you said that it's to set an example, and I never thought about it in those ways. And you just hit it on the nail on the head. It was an example.
You should go to Haiti. You'll learn how to do this. I didn't either until I went to Haiti. And speak with Haitians, they teach you.
Yes, but that was a powerful point. I had to stop you a little bit because you were going into it, and I want the people. I want them to settle in a little bit. The fact that the U.S. and other countries refused to acknowledge Haitian independence until 1864.
So that was the U.S. So it gets worse, though. So France recognized it in 1825, but the only way France recognized it was that it exacted a debt from Haiti. So Haitians were forced to pay a debt to the French slave owners for their lost, quote, property. Some of that property was land and cows and things like that, but a big chunk of that property was people. And so they were literally Haitians who had been freed by a successful revolution were forced to pay for their physical freedom to France. And the way that France forced it, I mean, partly was recognition, but really it was France sent a whole fleet of gunboats to Port-au-Prince Harbor and said, we're going to blow all your capitals to smithereens if you don't pay off. And no one else, not Britain, not the US, no one else would have stopped France, because again, everybody who was powerful wanted Haiti to fail. Now, that debt was not paid off for over 100 years. It kept getting refinanced, and it prevented Haiti from developing, because Haiti had to spend all its money in paying off the debt. Something that Jamaica is struggling with, has struggled with recent history.
Yes.
It's the same idea. You impose this debt, and that prevents the government, prevents the country from investing in education and infrastructure and economic development. You have to put all your money into export agriculture or something like that that's going to pay off your debts. And that's what they did for Haiti for over 100 years. Haiti was kept down by this debt. Again, intentionally. This wasn't a collateral consequence. This was the whole plan. You couldn't let Haiti succeed. The longest U.S. Marine occupation in any country was in Haiti. U.S. troops were there from 1915 to 1934. So during World War I, the war to end all world wars, the U.S. had Marines to spare to make sure that Haiti did not succeed. Going up to 2004, Haiti, and this is something that should be a real big deal in the Caribbean. In 2003. President Aristide put together, we were part of doing this, he put together a legal claim for the debt that the French the French forced on Haiti.
Yes, I remember that. That is true.
It was illegal. President Aristide puts together this claim and says, hey, look, we've got a case. And he had international lawyers from all over the world behind it. And he said, we're going to file this case against France. And this was a dangerous case, not only because, I mean, the calculation was that France owed Haiti $24 billion, which is a lot of money. But what was really worrying was that it would open the door to broader reparations. So let's say if France had to pay Haiti that $24 billion, there's going to be a long line signing up. So all the African countries that France raided are going to start, asking, okay, we deserve justice too. Other French colonies are going to say, we deserve justice too. British colonies, the same. America, it's going to open the door to a huge claim for reparations from people whose descendants were
country.
and so what the response to that was France and the U.S. doing this kidnapping of President Aristide. That was their way of making the lawsuit go away. The French, there was a New York Times about a year ago did a series on this, and they actually got the French ambassador at the time to admit this, that they did the coup to make the Haiti's restitution claim go away.
Wow, this is powerful. This is powerful news, and we've heard about we thought it was an extradition, but now we're hearing the kidnapping of Mr. Jean-Bertrand Aristide, and I remember that was one of my favorite Haitian presidents, actually. But
it was literally there was a plane so the U.S. had all these planes that they were using to, at the time, if you remember, there was this kind of war on terror and as part of that, the U.S. was taking people who were arrested and they were moving them to other countries where they could be tortured, and there were all these clandestine flights. They had this whole fleet of planes. And it was one of those planes took off from Guantanamo Bay, which was, that was one of the places where people were being held and tortured and things, and was sent to Haiti. And the U.S. ambassador, what they did was they kind of tricked Aristide to come to the airport, and they said, you can either. And at the time, there were, there was unrest in Port-au-Prince, and they had separated Aristide from his bodyguards, and they said, you can either walk home, and this is late at night, and we can't guarantee your safety, or you can get onto this plane. He got onto the plane, and he was with his wife too. So you and your wife have to walk home, probably certain death. And so they got on the plane. They were kept incommunicado. The plane filed a false flight plan and ended up taking them to the Central African Republic. where that wasn't where Aristide requested. That was where the French had kind of set that up because they knew that they could control things in the Central African Republic. In fact, I landed there a few days after Aristide, and you could see as the plane landed, it was all French soldiers who were running things at the airport, and so they really kind of put him there to keep him on ice so that this coup d'état in Haiti could be consolidated.
Oh wow, this is quite interesting. Learning about what's going on in Haiti, but also learning about history. This is quite important. And you talk about we talk about strategy. You went to Georgetown. I went to Georgetown. I'm in Georgetown. But they talk, and there's a course called strategy. I really like that course in strategy. And they also look at you can study the archives and look at strategy in colonization. There is strategy, and we talk about interventionist policies to structural adjustment, IDB, World Bank. In the 70s, a lot of Caribbean countries are familiar with that, where countries loan, a lot of first global north countries, post-industrial countries, lend money to the Caribbean, and then of course at high interest rates, which they're still paying back or can't pay back, which resembles the Haitian-French situation where Haiti had to pay France billions of dollars, which they stopped paying not until about 2006 or something, or 2004, I believe. That was when they finally paid off all of that, but it kept them down. It has deepened the economic and the social situation of the people in Haiti. But I believe, in a sense, the IMF, the World Bank, fast forward to the 1970s, it's as if they learned how to keep former colonies down. Haiti did it with France did it with Haiti, and then by the 1960s, they're doing it again, which is quite interesting. But the question for you...
One anecdote connecting that from the time, I'm not sure if you ever had the privilege of meeting John Maxwell, the Jamaican journalist.
Yes.
Wonderful guy.
No, the other John Maxwell. Sorry, but
okay.
And, I have never met John Maxwell. I should meet John Maxwell, and John Maxwell will be watching. He's going to watch this show. So
okay. John Maxwell I'm talking about sadly passed away about 10 years ago.
That's the socialist guy. That's the yes, yeah. I know the John Maxwell. Yes, but I've never met him.
The one time I met him, I communicated with email for years with him. He was just very insightful and helpful and such a humane person, especially around this whole coup d'etat and kind of the Caribbean role in it. And when President Aristide was able to escape the Central African Republic, and this was not easy. The way that happened was a plane was sent by that had Maxine Waters, who's a member of the U.S. Congress, who's very adamant for supporting Haiti, supporting justice. But they put on I think there's the foreign minister of Jamaica and many other high VIPs, and they literally flew it into the Central African Republic, and Maxine Waters said, "I'm leaving with President Aristide," and they said, "Well, we can't do that." And the government, because they were under orders from France and the U.S. not to let that happen, and Maxine said, "Okay, I'm going to stay here and make some noise until I leave." And so they called up and they got France.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah. Literally putting her life on the line, saying, "I'm staying here in this unstable country, and if I get killed, it's going to be a big mess." And so that was what allowed, and having Jamaican foreign minister on the plane, that was literally to keep it from being shot down. Knew that if they had these officials, that the U.S. would not shoot down the plane with Aristide, and so they brought him back to Jamaica, and I went down to meet with him with a delegation of human rights lawyers. On the way, or actually after we were done with the meeting, I had a chance to spend an afternoon with John Maxwell, and we were driving around, and he was teaching at the University of the West Indies. I think it was the Mona campus. And as we were driving around, I said, "This is absolutely fantastic. I wish Haiti could have something like this." And he looked sadly at me and said, "I wish Jamaica could have something like this." And he started pointing out the buildings. And he said, "That was this department. This was closed down 4 years ago because of, budget cuts to pay off our loans. There's the journalism school. There's this school." And I don't know what the situation is now, but at that point, like half of the these nice buildings were closed down because of budget cuts. And so, Haiti calls itself the laboratory. And what they say is that that the international community tries out things on Haiti, and if
Yes.
they work, then
Yes.
they're done elsewhere. And that was the laboratory theory there, that they'd used debt to keep Haiti down, and it worked so well that they're now using debt to keep Jamaica and other countries down.
And yes, they are using debt, which, as it was anecdotal, but as I speak with you and I think about it some more with and I read about what's going on. To be honest, I as a student of history, I don't some history you're not exposed to. I don't know why. Some history
you're kept from. I was a history major. I knew nothing about Haiti.
You have to sit down and read. You have to, if you don't do it, sit down and read for yourself. You'll never get it. I'm from Jamaica. And when you see what's going on, some of what I know about Haiti, I knew about Haiti while living here in the US. And I came here when I was 29. I'm 43 now. I'm going to be 44 this year. And, and when you see, and I said to people, it's very important that you study history, very important that we read widely about what's going on in society so that you can keep the pressure on your governments and the leaders, because you never know what they're doing in the back room. And this is what you have done with your Institute for Democracy, Institute for Justice and Democracy in Haiti, where you saw the, so to speak, the BS. You saw what's going on in society and how people, the international arrangements that keep certain people down. I thought there's a chapter in my new book where I talk about and the Black position. It talks the Black position. What is the Black position in the world? And if you study history, and the history of strategy, then you see the various ways in which Black people in the world have been sidelined. But here you are working hard to make a difference. What are some of the things that I know, and I know you work with the United Nations, what are some of the international organizations you are working with to help to resolve the situation, which is also an issue, not just because there are people who believe that we blame the people, who want to blame the people. It's, some Haitians believe it's the Haitians themselves, their inability to come together. And of course, there are those people who said, yes, that, but there's also on the international stage, the government, the international, the US, the UK, and the Spain, France, and all these big countries that are still involved. They're still elite. They're still part of the dominant class, or they're dominant people who are ruling these countries. I know you said that it's kind of difficult for you and your organization, but what are you doing? What are some of the organizations you are part of? And what's the next step for you guys and for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's one we struggle with every day. And one part of, an extension of what you're saying about who's running the world. I mean, if you look at the UN Security Council, which is, probably the most powerful body on earth, perhaps aside from maybe the Chinese or the US government, but, certainly in a lot of these issues is the defining force. It's dominated by the 5 members of the 5 permanent members, which are France, Russia, China, the US, and Great Britain. 3 of those, so 60%, they got their position of power through the slave trade, through slavery. And, so that's, we can, if you forget that, I totally agree with you on remembering history, you forget that at your peril, because that is still, their wealth was originally based on slavery. Now it's based on post-slavery exploitation of poor people.
Yes,
and it's the same people. The mechanism is different than slavery. I mean, fortunately, it's improved, but it's still the same people being exploited by the powerful countries to keep them powerful. And we need to keep that in mind. So we address international organizations. We file complaints with the UN system, with the Inter-American system, but we don't do it with any illusions. There are some people within those systems that want to help, and sometimes that does help. But we all obviously need to be aware that we're working within a system that is set up to prevent us from doing what we need to do. So everything we do is based on being able to pressure those systems, whether it's the UN, the US government, members of Congress, of the US Congress, that's the Canadian government, all of this. In order to apply pressure, we developed constituencies. We developed constituencies in the press by informing journalists who don't have enough time to really dig deep, and then if they don't dig deep, they'll listen to what the State Department says. That makes sense, and they'll write that down. We engage with them and say, hey, here's the history, here's the reality, here's what Haitians think. We also work with Haitian American communities in the United States to help them make their voices heard. We help Haitians within Haiti make their voices heard through whether it's demonstrations or getting articles into the international press, webinars, whatever we can to help them exert the power they have in a way that can make a difference. So, none of this, we don't have any illusions that the international community is going to do right by Haiti, because that's what the law says. Everything is based on the international community is only going to respect Haitians' rights and Haitian sovereignty to the extent that they're pressured to do so.
Yes. Oh, wow. I love that last word you said, pressure. And that's where you come to bear. So you apply pressure to human rights pressure, and you're an attorney as well. So you provide that kind of legal pressure. So that's great. And now, what about in terms of the Caribbean and the diaspora? I believe that there's something that the diaspora can do. I believe that they have been given opportunities, and I think that they can do much more in terms of the Caribbean. Not just this is where you have the Caribbean community, CARICOM, in the Caribbean that works to develop Caribbean interests, which I believe that what has dogged the Caribbean is that it's still weak. And I read an article in the Jamaica Gleaner written by Dane McGibbon. They found oil offshore Guyana, and he asked, "Is this a great opportunity for the Caribbean?" No, it is not, because in 1952 they found bauxite in Jamaica. Okay, they've had oil in Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, so I believe if all the Caribbean islands could come together, and I think in 1958 the idea was for us to come together, but the Treaty of Chaguaramas that was shot down, and then that led to a more watered down treaty of the Caribbean, which is now watered down. But I think if they can come together and pool resources together, then probably they will help each country, not just Haiti, but what's going on in all their backyards. And work with the international community and people like your organization, what you are doing. What are some of the ways that people can get involved in what your organization is doing?
So first start with our website. It's www.ijdh.org, or HaitiJustice.org works as well. We have we send out emails, on action alerts, things like that. People can volunteer, people can donate. We're, always, we don't get funding from governments. They're obviously not going to fund us to challenge them. We don't get funding from the UN, so we rely on donors. Most of our donors are just regular people who want to help, so we rely on that. And if people have any questions, reach out. How you can help. We've reached out to people back at the time when, for example, when my colleague Mario Joseph wrote that letter back in October to explain to CARICOM why it's problematic, we reached out to our friends in the Caribbean and said, hey, pass this around to your elected officials, to journalists, to your friends. Let's just get this around so people in the Caribbean know what's at stake in Haiti. So certainly, love to anybody want to connect to pass around information. And of course, Ronaldo, I'll send you the letter. I mean, it's still,
yes, please send me the letter. And we got disconnected, so I don't know if that was the recording was affected. Hopefully, but earlier when you said that, so there was a letter by Gonzalez.
The letter was from my colleague Mario Joseph, who's Haiti's most prominent human rights letter, and he wrote it to the CARICOM General Secretariat. That was in response to U.S. efforts to get Caribbean troops to come to Haiti, so that it would be Black Caribbean troops doing the work of Canada and the U.S., because Canada and the U.S. did not want their white soldiers being seen shooting into Haitian crowds. And so they wanted CARICOM to come and do its dirty work. My colleague...
that's the problem. I'm sorry to interject. That's the
No,
problem.
go ahead.
That is the problem with the U. I don't know what's going on. This is the problem. They're boring about optics, but they're doing the same thing. It's as if you don't learn. You know, you talk about house slaves. Who beat the slaves in the field? You know, you talk about what happened in Africa and how Africa was dominated by Europe. How was it dominated? Through trickery, through strategy. They made deals with one African tribe and then with other African tribe. But it's always you make deals with one African country to get their brothers to go into another person. So it doesn't matter if they do it. It doesn't matter if they do it, it doesn't matter who is doing it. But I'm saying what I do not understand is here it is that they want the Caribbean to go in and a force, but at the same to lead a force. But what about Caribbean in terms of leading the discussions around diplomacy, leading the discussions in terms of investing in the Caribbean? And what about the CARICOM leading the charge instead of the UN?
So that's exactly what CARICOM did. In 2004, That's exactly what CARICOM did. CARICOM led discussions about returning democracy to Haiti. It led discussions about, hey, there's been a coup d'etat. The elected president is in South Africa. We've got to do something about that. Okay. That was immensely successful. Every time the U.S. tried to sweep it under the rugs and said, oh, everybody agrees with this coup d'etat, and everybody meant U.S., France, Canada, CARICOM said, hey, everybody doesn't. We're here. And that was a very powerful statement that really contributed to democracy getting back to Haiti. And CARICOM was successful. It was courageous, but it's not doing that. And in part, and again, you may know a lot more about this than I do, but from my perspective, I think the U.S. learned its lesson. I think the U.S. said, okay, we're going to break CARICOM up. And I think a lot of the work around the OAS vote on Venezuela, where for the first time, CARICOM kind of broke its consensus, and you had some people supporting the ouster of Venezuela from the OAS, and some people defending it. I think that was very effective because it broke up CARICOM unity, and for the exact reasons why you mentioned, unity is so important, because as long as the U.S. can start picking people apart and saying, okay, Jamaica, we'll give you this if you do this, and then give each country what it wants. In the end, all the countries are going to do what the U.S. wants, which is going to hurt them all. And it's only really by getting people together that you're going to be able to resist it.
And that has been, and that's one of the reasons that has done, because in order for people to penetrate, in order for global penetration to happen, then you have to still have this unity. You break up what's going on the ground. The Caribbean, we are all small countries. And if we are able to have a stronger single market and economy, and that's part of the problem. You don't want another country rivaling other countries. That's part, I believe that's a major problem. We live in a very competitive world, and Caribbean people need to come together in a more stronger and deliberative way. And a strategy, the word strategy is important. I can't say that word important. I mean, I can't emphasize that word enough. Strategy. And I don't believe that they think in terms of strategy and how that they can save face and because in 2004 was a really between 1999 to 2004. And I was at the seminary. I remember following Haitian news a lot. And I saw CARICOM was very involved in Haiti. Mm-hmm. And I agree with you. Those were the twilight years. They were the beautiful. I mean, there were still opportunities for change, but that was the years when you believed that they were going in the right direction, But there is always something that affects, that derail the Caribbean. But the thing is, and that's why I said that's always defined the Caribbean: stagnation, vulnerability, instability. As soon as you think that they are stable, they are unstable. And that's the question. Even today, they might be talking about, right? I read an article yesterday in the Gleaner. Crime is down in Jamaica by 31%. That is unheard of. I could not believe it. Crime. Jamaica is one of the highest crime, had the highest crime rate in the world, one of the highest. But today it's down by 31, double digits. I couldn't believe it, 31%. But how long will that last? You know what I mean? And I think that's part of the problem. There's this instability. It's so schizophrenic. You know, you cannot.
Yeah, but it's instability that is generated. I mean, if Jamaica was not having to, for the last 20 years, devote a lot of money to paying back these loans, it could have been investing in jobs, education, all of things that are proven to fight crime. I mean, as long as you have huge inequality, huge poverty, an inability of the government to provide basic government services, there's no way you're not going to have high crime. And so by keeping Jamaica from investing in its people, the international community generated the crime that then keeps the Jamaican governments vulnerable. Which then, and because of that, now Jamaica has to rely outsize on the travel industry. And one example, in 2004, when the U.S. wanted to put pressure on Jamaica to make Aristide leave, they said, we're going to put a travel warning on Jamaica. We're going to say that Jamaica is too dangerous because of crime for American tourists to visit. And that would have caused a huge amount of pain among working people in Jamaica who are dependent on those jobs.
Yes.
And it would have, and Jamaica, in 2004, they were able to, CARICOM and Jamaica were able to hold on. Jamaica could not hold on and keep Aristide there indefinitely. And they finally said, we need to, we can't do this. We have to, set him up so he can go to South Africa. But it was a huge pressure, and the U.S. can do that today. They can say, hey, tomorrow, if Jamaica doesn't do this, and that might have been part of why Jamaica put out that statement last week. There might have been pressure from the U.S. saying, nice economy you've got there, and if a travel warning would be very dangerous to you, and we don't want to do that.
Wow. Can I? And I talk about the ability to issue travel warning. That's that you are a dependent capitalist country that is still serving people of the globe. I talk about the global South and the global North, and the book I write, looks at the penetration of the other, of the external, and it's quite interesting. And that it's as if they have any rights. Their hands are tied because who have the money? Show me the money, and then you have the talk. Yep. And that's very important. And one of the students in the class said to me last week, "Sir, we should not define the Caribbean only in terms of our economics." And I said to him, the day when they invented money, and the day when they invented currency was the day when you have to now start defining your country and yourself by currency, because that is important. And if you don't have enough of it or have access to it, then you will forever be kept down at the bottom. But I saw the letter you sent me, Port-au-Prince, Haiti, to this is Dr. Carla Natalie Barnett, who is the Secretary General. According to the letter dated November 4, 2022, dear Dr. Barnett, we are writing you in relation to the armed international intervention in Haiti that has been requested by Dr. Ariel Henry, the de facto Prime Minister of Haiti, and supported by the United States and Canada, to explain that any support for the intervention by the Caribbean community would violate CARICOM's democratic principles, betray Haitians' centuries-long struggle for democracy and sovereignty, and implicate CARICOM in attacks against civilians exercising their basic human rights. Wow, this is powerful. This is a long letter, guys. And I'm reading it for those who are going to be listening, who are joining the show. But he said, the letter goes on to say that ever since the intervention was proposed, Haitians have taken to the streets by the tens of thousands to oppose it. We have issued statements, spoken out in the media, and done anything else we could to let the world know that the intervention is designed to prop up the unconstitutional, corrupt, and repressive de facto government and stifle legitimate dissent. De facto Prime Minister Henry ascended to his post not through any Haitian procedure, but through an announcement by the US-led core group. He had been nominated by President Jovenel Moïse of the party of the PHTK. whose mandate had expired 5 months previously. Now, the PHTK has not run an election that was either fair or timely in the decade it has maintained power. According to the letter that I'm reading now, Haiti's parliament became inoperative in January of 2020, and the terms of all local elected officials ended in July of that year. Haiti's Supreme Court has lacked enough members to constitute a quorum since March. This situation constitutes a sharp departure from the right to a fair and open democratic system guaranteed by Article 6 of the CARICOM Charter of Civil Society. And it goes on and on and on and on. PHTK governance has been demonstrably brutal. In April of 2021, the Haitian Observatory for Crimes Against Humanity and Harvard Law School issued a report establishing that gangs and government officials collaborated on deadly attacks against neighborhoods, suspended on harboring political dissidents and voters opposed to PHTK. Now, during the current wave of protest, police have arrested dozens of dissidents. It's a long letter. I'm going to wrap up now because I know you're following me here. Dissidents engage in legal protest activity and shot at legal demonstrations. Journalists have been shot and killed. This repression constitutes severe violation of rights guaranteed by Article 4, rights to life, liberty, security of the person, so on and so forth. Throughout the PHTK's rule, the powerful members of the international community have refrained from criticizing the government's human rights record in an exception that provides the rule in early 2018. I'm going to get back to this letter later on, but I'm going to end by saying Haitians are well aware that the most recent international armed intervention tasked with addressing gang violence in Haiti, the MINUSTA, was a deadly expensive failure, which spent $9 billion US over 13 years and left Haiti less democratic than when it arrived. This is quite, the United Nations also insulted Haitian people, caused enormous suffering and death, and triumphed on the rule of law by dumping cholera-laden sewage in our rivers and refusing to comply with its legal obligations to repair the damage. 6 years ago, the UN human rights expert Philippe Alston declared that the UN response goes directly against the principles of accountability, transparency, and the rule of law that the UN itself promotes globally. The organization continued flouting to its legal obligations. This is quite interesting. And finally, in the end, Mario Joseph said, the Haitian people are today looking for CARICOM to extend the example the community set in 2004. Not betrayed. We do not want our CARICOM sisters and brothers to come with guns to help powerful countries as if they are house slaves. I'm adding that. As if they are house slaves to impose a repressive regime on us. We want our sisters and brothers to come in solidarity with respect and democratic principles. We want CARICOM to once again insist that the international community stop supporting an unconstitutional imposed regime and allow Haitians to find a democratic, sustainable solution to our political crisis in solidarity. Wow, this is a powerful letter. And I am going to get a chance to read it again and talk about it again. This is a powerful letter that we will get a chance to delve into. And just so you know, you're going to be talking with the class, my class, Caribbean Thought. Is it next week? Next week, Friday?
Do we even have it set? I kind of wasn't sure we had that actually set. Let me check my calendar.
Yes, but just so you know, guys, for those of us who've been watching this show delayed, Brian will be on the show, and he's going to be talking with the students at the Jamaican Theological Seminary. In fact, what we're going to do, we're going to open up his presentation. We're going to open up his talk. We're going to open it up to the entire school. We're going to open it up to the entire school, and we're going to have it live, and where people can talk. You can have a feedback, ask questions about your work and what's going on in Haiti, so on and so forth, and you can give an address about your work, and maybe we have some of the stuff that we discussed. But this is great. This is great. And then I didn't even get to talk to you about your life and what you do and what gets you up in the morning and what gives you tick. But what is it? What is your inspiration? What is it that drives you? because you're from the US, you lived in Haiti for a while. You came back because you say, my work lies here. I have to work here. Okay. While the Caribbean, they need to work in Haiti. Work together. The Caribbean, we need to, okay. And then while some of us work, it has to be strategic. But what is it that gets you up in the morning and that gets you going and ticking and so on?
Mm-hmm. So ever since I was a little kid, I was always interested in justice. The books I like to read, the movies I like to see, TV shows, the ones that involved justice were always my favorite. And, I went to law school and, again, because I really felt called to advance justice, I, didn't have a very specific idea what that meant. Haiti wasn't on my radar screen. But then I had this opportunity when I decided I wanted to go into human rights work. It was, I had the great privilege of having an opportunity to work in Haiti. And it's a great privilege because Haitians care about justice in ways that only people who've been deprived of it so much can understand. But also, not only are Haitians kind of the world champions of facing injustice, they're also the world champions of fighting back. Again, they beat Napoleon at his prime. The only country, I'm sure almost every slave who ever existed has said, I want independence. Haitians are the only ones who have a country that came from a slave revolt. And they've been repressed ever since. If we've discussed, colonized, they've also never stopped fighting against that. And for someone who cares deeply about justice, to be able to work with people who care so deeply and are willing to make so many sacrifices, it's an absolute privilege. I remember being in meetings where, be kind of an afternoon meeting that went into the evening. I'm getting hungry and feeling kind of sorry for myself. And then I realized, I had lunch, I had breakfast. Some of these people didn't have lunch or breakfast. They're here fighting, and I got to, stop feeling sorry for myself and, try to be as tough as they are. So ever since then, so there's a lot of positive motivations. I'm afraid now a lot of negative motivations. I'm totally irate at the hypocrisy between, what I still feel are fundamental American ideals and human ideals of support for democracy. And, with the same outrage you've expressed at that, at this situation, it is just totally outrageous. And so, part of me is fueled by the outrage that this is happening, with my tax dollars, somewhat with my name, and to people that, I have such great admiration and respect for.
Yes. Wow. Powerful. It's after 11 and we've been talking for a while, and I am going to have you back. We're going to have you back on the show.
I look forward to it.
Come back on the show to comment on what's going on in Haiti, issues of justice. We're going to definitely have you back on the show to talk some more. And I think next week we can. I
can't do it next week, but I look forward to meeting with your class as soon as we can get that to work.
Yes, probably tomorrow. Maybe next week. And tomorrow I wrap up a lecture, and then but we will talk about when you will come back, and we can have a discussion with you in the class. But thank you so much.
I look forward to that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I have learned so much, and we are going to be. We're going to join the movement. We're going to join the IJDH.
You got it. IJDH. You already joined the movement. You got the
IJDH. Guys, this is the man. He's been working, and he reached out to me, and I reached out to him. I saw the work that he was doing in Haiti, and I'm like, wow, there is somebody here working on it. I'm working to help make Haiti a better place. That is great. And so we are going to, and please, go. He's on Twitter, Haitian Justice. The Institute is also on Facebook. You're also on LinkedIn. And so you can visit them on ijdh.com. Is it .com or .org?
.org.
ijdh.org. Please, and it's a beautiful, beautiful image. I love the thumbnail icon that you have up there. Okay, so check them out, guys. They're doing a lot of work in Haiti and by extension the Caribbean. Because as I said to you, there's a book that I read, which the students will get a chance to watch it either this week or next week. It's called Life and Death, written by Jamaica Kincaid. The book. Sorry, it's a small place about Antigua that looks at IMF and structural adjustment policy. And then from there, you have, from a small place, you had the book, you had the movie, Life and Death, the documentary film. And they talk about structural adjustment and the IMF and the World Bank and how things were affected, or things that are affected in the Caribbean. But the beautiful thing about this movie, Life and Death, it came from the book A Small Place. The book A Small Place is about Antigua, but the movie, which was based off the book, is about Jamaica. I mean, the experiences are almost identical in the Caribbean. So I talk about the Black, but as people, we have to work together. No matter who you are, white or Black, no matter who you are. And I said, there's no race in the world. Race is a conception created in the 1600s to supply a theory. We'll talk about that later on. Okay? So, guys, let's all work together to improve each other. What is the ultimate of all things? The ultimate of all things is that we become one with reality in all of our individuals. Tiger God said, once you label me, you negate. So let us work together. Let's come together to make everybody a better experience, identifying and respecting the value of the person in relation to me. Because what is the goal in do unto others as much as you want others to do unto you? And it is a recognition that you have appropriately dealt with self so that you can appropriately deal with them. This is the Neoliberal Round podcast. Visit us at www.theneoliberal.com. The podcast is anchor.fm/theneoliberal. We're on YouTube. We are on over 15 streams. We are heard globally, all over the world. Visit us and donate to the show because everything we offer is free. Anchor.fm/theneoliberal/support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ronaldo. Thank you so much. Look forward to continuing this discussion.
We will continue because there's so much happening in Haiti right now. I need to reach out to the people in Jamaica because there is a discussion going on in Jamaica right now as it relates to this particular story that you shared with me. And apparently the Jamaican government, we are thinking about sending a troop there, which I completely oppose to. Based on what I'm
Please send them Mario's letter.
I will send them the Mario's letter. I will send it to the Jamaican Gleaner as well. Okay, definitely.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And take care.
Okay. Keep up your good work, Ronaldo.
I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah,